The sky burned orange and red as Park Tae-soo walked through the destroyed city. Smoke rose from broken buildings. The ground was covered with glass and metal pieces. 7 years of war had turned this beautiful Valorian colony into nothing but dust and death. Tae-soo was a medic in the human army. His job was to save lives, not take them. He carried medical supplies in his bag and a small gun on his belt. He had not fired that gun in 3 months. He hoped he would never need to fire it again. His squad of 5 soldiers moved carefully through the streets. Their boots made crunching sounds on the broken ground. The battle here had ended 2 days ago. Human forces had won, but the cost was high. Many soldiers from both sides lay dead in the ruins. "Keep moving," said Sergeant Yumbora, the squad leader. She was a tough woman with short black hair and tired eyes. "We check for survivors, then we leave. No delays." Tae-soo nodded but said nothing. He knew what survivors meant to the army. Human survivors. The Valorians were the enemy. After 7 years of war, most soldiers had stopped seeing them as living beings at all. The Valorians were tall, creatures with silver-blue skin that seemed to glow in certain lights. They had 4 eyes instead of 2, and their bodies were thin but strong. They came from a planet far across the galaxy. Nobody remembered anymore why the war had started. It just continued, year after year, taking more and more lives. Tae-soo's squad reached a large transport ship that had crashed into a building. The ship was broken in half. Fire had burned most of it black. There was no chance anyone inside had survived. "Move past it," Bora ordered. "Nothing here." But Tae-soo heard something. It was soft, almost too quiet to notice. A small sound, like crying. He stopped walking. The other soldiers continued forward without noticing. Tae-soo turned his head, trying to find where the sound came from. There, under a large piece of metal from the ship. He moved toward it slowly. The crying grew louder. It was definitely coming from under the wreckage. He knelt down and looked into a small gap between the metal and the ground. 4 eyes stared back at him. Tae-soo's heart nearly stopped. It was a Valorian child. A little girl, maybe 4 years old by human counting. Her silver-blue skin was covered with dust and blood. 2 of her 4 eyes were dim, damaged by injury. She was trapped, her small body pinned under heavy debris. She saw him and screamed. It was a sound of pure terror. To her, he was the monster. His people had destroyed her home, killed everyone she knew. "Hey, hey," Tae-soo said softly. He held up his empty hands. "I will not hurt you." Of course, she did not understand Korean, but maybe she understood his tone. Her screaming slowly became quiet sobbing. Tae-soo heard footsteps behind him. Bora had noticed he was missing and come back. "What are you doing?" she asked. Then she saw the child. Her face became hard. "Leave it. We have orders. She is a child," Tae-soo said. "She is the enemy. She is 4 years old. She is not anyone's enemy." Bora grabbed his shoulder. "Listen to me. If you help that thing, you will face punishment. Court-martial, prison. Your career will be over." Tae-soo looked at the child. Her small body was shaking. Blood dripped from a wound on her head. Without medical help, she would die within hours. He thought about his oath. When he became a medic, he promised to save lives. The oath did not say only human lives. It did not say only lives from your side. It simply said to save lives. "Then my career will be over," he said quietly. He shook off Baora's hand and began moving the debris. It was heavy, but he was strong. Piece by piece, he cleared the wreckage away from the child's small body. "You are making a mistake," Baora warned. "Maybe," Tae-soo agreed. "But I can live with this mistake." I cannot live with leaving a child to die." The other squad members had returned now. They watched in silence as Taesu worked. Some of their faces showed anger. Others showed something different. Something like respect. Finally, Taesu freed the child. He lifted her gently into his arms. She was so light, like holding air. Her 4 eyes looked up at him, and slowly, the terror in them began to fade. He opened his medical bag and began treating her wounds. He cleaned the blood from her face. He bandaged her injuries. He gave her water from his own supply. "I will call you Bile," he told her softly. "It means star, because your skin shines like starlight." The child did not understand his words, but she seemed to understand his kindness. Her small hand reached up and grabbed his finger. She held on tight, like he was the only safe thing in her destroyed world. Bara watched this with a complicated expression. Finally, she sighed. "You know what will happen when Command finds out," she said. "I know. You will lose everything." Taesu looked down at Bile. She had closed her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she was not crying. She was not afraid. She trusted him. "No," he said. "I will not lose everything. I will keep my soul." He carried the child out of the ruins, back toward the human base. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know that his simple act of kindness would change the entire war. He did not know that across the stars, a powerful commander had just received news that her daughter might still be alive. All he knew was that he had made the right choice. And sometimes, that is enough. High Commander Valeria stood on the bridge of her warship, looking out at the endless black of space. Stars glittered like diamonds scattered on dark cloth. Beautiful and cold. Just like her heart had become. She was tall, even for a Valorian. Her silver-blue skin was darker than most, almost gray in certain lights. Her 4 eyes were sharp and missed nothing. She wore the black uniform of the Third Fleet, with medals covering her chest. Each medal represented a battle won. Each battle meant human blood. For 7 years, she had led her fleet against humanity. She had destroyed 17 of their colonies. She had killed so many that she had stopped counting. Her name was spoken with fear among human soldiers. They called her the Void's Edge because meeting her meant meeting death. But today, she was not thinking about war. She was thinking about her daughter. 3 weeks ago, Bile's transport ship was attacked during a human offensive. Valeria had received a report while commanding a battle 2 star systems away. The transport was destroyed. No survivors found. Her daughter was dead. Valeria did not cry. Valorians did not cry. Instead, she took her grief and turned it into cold rage. In the weeks after Bile's death, she attacked human forces with new cruelty. She showed no mercy. She took no prisoners. Every human who died was payment for her daughter's life. But now, standing on her bridge, she held a report that changed everything. Her daughter was alive. A human soldier had found her in the wreckage. A medic named Park Taesu. He had saved her life, treated her wounds, and carried her to safety. The child was now at a human military base, being cared for by doctors. Valeria read the report 5 times. Each time, her hand shook a little more. "Commander?" Her second officer, a young male named Torin, approached carefully. "Are you well?" "My daughter lives," Valeria said. Her voice was strange, even to her own ears. "A human saved her." Torin's 4 eyes widened. "That is unexpected." Unexpected. Yes, that was one word for it. Impossible was another. For 7 years, Valeria had believed humans were monsters without honor. They were animals who killed without reason. They were the enemy of all Valorians, but an animal would not save an enemy child. A monster would not risk punishment to help a little girl. Only a being with honor would do such a thing. Valera walked to her private chamber and locked the door. She needed to think. In Valorian culture, there was an ancient code called the Valkorth. It meant the balance of debts. The rules were simple but absolute. If someone saved your life or the life of your family, you owed them a debt. This debt must be repaid. To ignore was the greatest shame possible. Your family name would be ruined forever. No Valorian had ever owed Valkorth to a human. The idea seemed absurd. How could you owe a debt to the enemy? How could you honor someone from a species you were trying to destroy? But the code did not care about war or enemies. The code only cared about the debt. Valera sat in silence for many hours. She thought about Bile's smile. She thought about holding her daughter for the first time 4 years ago. She thought about the terrible emptiness of believing she was dead, and she thought about the human medic who had given her daughter back to her. Finally, she made her decision. She returned to the bridge and opened a communication channel to Valorian High Command. The face of Grand Admiral Soren appeared on screen. He was old and battle-scarred, with 3 of his 4 eyes replaced by mechanical sensors. "Commander Valera," he said. "Report. Grand Admiral, I must invoke the Valkorth." Silence. Soren's remaining organic eye blinked slowly. "Explain," he said. "My daughter was saved by a human. By the ancient code, I owe him a life debt. I am requesting formal procedures to fulfill this obligation." "You cannot be serious." Soren's voice was hard. "We are at war with these creatures. You want to honor one of them?" "I do not want to," Valera said calmly. "I must. The code does not bend for convenience. If I ignore this debt, my family name is destroyed. My honor is destroyed. I become nothing." Soren was quiet for a long moment. The Valkorth was older than their current civilization. Even he could not simply dismiss it. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Contact the human government. Tell them I demand the soldier be brought to me, not as a prisoner, as the holder of my debt. I will repay what I owe. This is not a request. This is a formal invocation of Valkorth." Soren's mechanical eyes clicked and whirred. "The humans will not understand. They do not have our traditions." "Then help them understand. Make them see this is real. Make them see I am serious. And if they refuse?" Valera's 4 eyes grew cold. "Then I will stop fighting. I will withdraw my fleet. I will not lift another weapon against humanity until my debt is paid. This war matters less to me than my honor." The words hit Soren like a physical blow. Valera's 3rd Fleet was crucial to the war effort. Losing her would be a disaster. "You would really do this?" he asked. "I would." Another long silence. Then Soren nodded slowly. "Very well. I will contact the humans. But Valera, be careful. You are walking into unknown territory. No one knows how this will end." Valera thought of her daughter, alive because of a human's kindness. She thought of the medic who had risked everything to save a child of the enemy. "Some risks are worth taking," she said. She ended the communication and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a human named Park Tae-soo was waiting. He did not know it yet, but their fates were now tied together. The debt would be paid, one way or another. The message from the Valorian Empire shocked everyone on Earth. General Kim Dong-wook read the transmission 3 times before believing it was real. A Valorian High Commander was demanding a human soldier be delivered to her, not as a prisoner of war, as the holder of some ancient honor debt. The whole thing sounded insane, but the Valorians were serious. They sent detailed explanations of their Valkorth code. They promised this was not a trick. They offered a neutral meeting place. They even agreed to a temporary ceasefire while negotiations happened. For the first time in 7 years, The enemy wanted to talk instead of fight. Dong-WOOK called an emergency meeting of military leaders. They argued for hours. Some said it was obviously a trap. Others said it might be real. A few suggested using this chance to kill the Valorian commander when she appeared. In the end, they decided to ask the man at the center of everything. Park Tae-Su. Tae-Su was brought from his holding cell to a clean meeting room. After saving Bile, he had been arrested for disobeying orders. He had spent 2 weeks waiting for his court-martial. Instead, he found himself facing generals. Dong-Wook explained the situation carefully. The Valorians wanted him. Their commander claimed she owed him a debt for saving her daughter. If Tae-Su agreed to meet her, it could open doors for peace. Or it could be a trap that got him killed. The choice is yours, Dong-Wook said. We will not force you, but you should understand what is at stake. Tae-Su sat quietly for a long moment. He thought about the war. 7 years of death. Millions of lives lost on both sides. Cities burned. Families destroyed. And for what? Nobody even remembered the original reason anymore. He thought about Bile, her small hand holding his finger, her 4 eyes slowly losing their fear. She was back with her people now, returned through careful negotiations. He was glad she was safe. If I go, Tae-Su said slowly, there is a real chance for peace? A chance, Dong-Wook admitted. Not a guarantee, but yes. This is the first time the Valorians have reached out like this. If their honor code is real, it could change everything. And if it is a trap, then you will probably die. Tae-Su nodded. He appreciated the honesty. He closed his eyes and thought about his mother. Back on Earth, she had cried when he joined the army. She had cried more when war began. Every month, she sent messages asking when he would come home. He had never had a good answer. Maybe now he could give her one. I will go, he said. The meeting was arranged for 2 weeks later. The location was an old space station in the demilitarized zone between human and Valorian territory. Both sides would bring small groups. No weapons allowed inside the meeting room. Tae-Su arrived on a small human ship with 5 soldiers and 2 diplomats. His heart beat fast as the station came into view. It was old and rusty, built during a war from before his time. Now it would witness something that had never happened before. The Valorian ship was already docked when they arrived. It was sleek and beautiful, shaped like a blade. Tae-Su had never seen one up close without trying to destroy it or escape from it. The meeting room was in the center of the station. Both groups entered from opposite doors at the exact same time. Tae-Su saw the Valorian delegation across the room. Tall figures in dark uniforms, their silver-blue skin glowing softly in the artificial light. And in front of them stood Valera. She was exactly as the intelligence reports described. Tall, powerful, with the dark skin of high-born Valorians. Her 4 eyes fixed on Tae-Su immediately. He felt like a small animal being watched by a predator. But then he noticed something else. A small figure hiding behind Valera's legs. Byel. The child peeked out at the humans with curiosity and fear. Her wounds had healed. The 2 eyes that had been damaged were now covered with small patches. She looked healthier than when Tae-Su had last seen her. Then she saw him. Her 4 eyes went wide. She made a small sound of joy and ran across the room before anyone could stop her. She crashed into Tae-Su's legs and wrapped her arms around him, speaking rapidly in Valorian. The translators clicked and processed her words. Kind one. Warm hands. You came back. I knew you would come back. Tae-Su knelt down to her level. His eyes were wet. He had not expected to see her again. He had not expected her to remember him. Hello, little star, he said softly. The room was completely silent. Every person, human and Valorian, watched this small moment of connection. A child of one species embracing a man of another. It was simple and pure. It was everything the war was not. Valera walked forward slowly. Her face showed no expression, but her eyes never left Taesu. She stopped a few feet away. "You saved what I treasure most," she said. The translator made her voice sound strange and mechanical, but the meaning was clear. "By the Velkarth, I am bound to you. Name your price: human, wealth, territory, the end of this war. I will grant what is in my power." Every human in the room held their breath. This was the moment they had hoped for. Taesu could ask for peace. He could ask for surrender. He could ask for anything. But Taesu looked at Bile, still holding on to him. He looked at Valera, this fearsome commander who had killed so many, yet who was also simply a mother who loved her child. He understood something then: peace could not be bought. It could not be demanded or traded. Real peace had to be built on something deeper, something that lasted. "I do not want payment," he said. Silence. Even the translators seemed confused. "I do not want your wealth or your territory," Taesu continued. "I do not want you to end the war because of a debt. That would not be real peace. That would just be another kind of surrender." Valera's eyes narrowed. "Then what do you want?" Taesu stood up, still holding Bile's small hand. "I want understanding," he said. "I want you to see us as more than enemies. I want us to find a way to stop killing each other, not because of honor codes, but because we choose to. I want your daughter to grow up in a galaxy without war." He paused, then added quietly, "I want the same thing you want. I want Bile to be safe." For a long moment, no one moved. The request was so strange, so different from anything the Valorians had expected. They had prepared for demands and negotiations. They had not prepared for this. Valera looked at her daughter, then at the human who had saved her dot, and for the first time, she saw him not as an enemy, but as a person. "You are strange. Human," she said. "Maybe," Taesu agreed. "But I think you understand me anyway." Another long pause. Then, slowly, Valera nodded. "Yes," she said. "I think I do." The real work was just beginning. But in that moment, something changed. A door opened that could never be fully closed again. Hope entered the room, and it did not leave. The news of Taesu's refusal spread through both civilizations like fire. Nobody understood it. Nobody knew what to do with it. On the human side, politicians argued endlessly. Some said Taesu was a fool who had wasted the best chance for peace. Others said he was wise to reject a peace built on debt alone. News channels ran his story day and night. Some called him a hero. Others called him a traitor. Nobody called him ordinary anymore. On the Valorian side, the situation was even more confused. The Velkarth demanded payment. That was the entire point of the code. You owed a debt. You paid it. Simple, clean, complete. But Taesu had refused payment. By doing this, he had left a debt open forever. In Valorian law, this meant Valera was now bound to him permanently. She could never be free until the debt was closed. The Valorian High Council was furious. "This human has trapped you," Grand Admiral Soren said coldly. "Whether he knows it or not, he has made you his servant forever. You must find a way to break this bond." Valera stood before the council, calm and unmoving. "There is no way to break it. The code is absolute." "Then kill him," another council member suggested. "Death ends all debts." "No. Killing the holder of a Velkarth brings eternal shame. My family line would be cursed for generations." "Then what will you do?" Soren demanded. "You cannot remain bound to an enemy forever. It is impossible." Valera was quiet for a long moment. She had thought about this for many days. She had read ancient texts and spoken with elders who remembered the old traditions. She had found an answer, but it was not one the council would like. "There is one way," she finally said. "The Velkarth Eternal." Silence fell over the council chamber. Several members looked shocked. Others looked angry. The Velkarth Eternal was an ancient practice, rarely used. It allowed a debtor to fulfill their obligation through lifelong service and partnership with the holder of their debt. "You cannot be serious," Soren said. "I am completely serious. If I cannot pay this debt with one action, I will pay it through a lifetime of actions. I will serve alongside this human. I will use my position to protect him and to work for what he asked for, understanding between our peoples. This is madness. No, this is honor." Valier's 4 eyes were cold and certain. The human did not ask for gold or power. He asked for peace. He asked for my daughter to grow up without war. How can I refuse such a request? How can any of you? The council argued for hours, but Valeria would not change her position. In the end, they had no choice but to accept. The Velkarth was older than their government. It was woven into the foundation of their civilization. Even the council could not simply ignore it. Valeria sent a message to the human government. She explained what she had done and what it meant. She requested permission to meet with Taesu again, not as enemies, but as partners bound by ancient law. The humans did not fully understand, but they agreed. 3 weeks later, Taesu found himself on a diplomatic shuttle heading back to the neutral station. This time, he was not a prisoner or a curiosity. He was something new, the first human to be bound to a Valorian through Velkarth Eternal. The meeting was smaller this time. Just Taesu, Valera, and a few translators. And of course, Bile, who refused to be separated from either of them. "I do not understand everything that is happening," Taesu admitted. "Your customs are very different from ours." "Let me explain simply," Valera said. "You refused my payment. By our law, this means I am now bound to you forever. I have chosen to honor this bond through the Velkarth Eternal. I will spend my life working alongside you, helping you achieve what you asked for." Taesu blinked. "You mean, you and I are now partners?" "In a sense, yes. More than partners. In old Valorian culture, this bond was considered as strong as family. Perhaps stronger. I did not know. I did not mean to, I know." Valera's voice softened slightly. "You acted from your heart, not from strategy. That is why this works. If you had planned this, if you had tried to trap me, the bond would be shameful. But you did not. You simply wanted peace. That makes this bond honorable." Bile tugged at Taesu's sleeve. Through the translator, she said, "Mother says we are family now. Are you my family?" Taesu looked at the little girl, then at her mother. A Valorian commander who had killed thousands. A warrior feared across the galaxy. And yet also a mother who loved her daughter more than anything else. "I think I am," he said slowly. "If you want me to be." Bile smiled, showing small teeth that were slightly sharper than human teeth. "I want you to be. You are the kind one. You have warm hands." Over the next months, everything changed. Valera used her influence to push for peace talks. As one of the most powerful military commanders, her voice carried weight. When she spoke of the human who saved her daughter, other Valorians listened. Taesu became an unexpected diplomat. He had no training for it. He was just a medic from a small town on Earth. But people wanted to hear his story. They wanted to see the man who refused a war-ending payment because he wanted something more meaningful. Together, they traveled between human and Valorian territories. Valera taught Taesu about her culture, the foods, the music, the history that stretched back thousands of years. He taught her about humanity, the art, the humor, The stubborn hope that kept them fighting, even when things seemed impossible. Bile became the bridge between them. She learned Korean from Tasu and taught him Valorian words in return. She laughed at his terrible pronunciation. She held his hand when the diplomatic meetings became boring. She called him uncle in her language, a word that meant someone who was not blood family but was chosen family. The peace process was slow and difficult. There were setbacks, attacks from groups on both sides who did not want peace, political fights, misunderstandings, moments when everything seemed about to fall apart. But Taesu and Valera continued. "Why do you keep going?" A human reporter asked Taesu once. "You could have been a hero and gone home. Why stay in this difficult work?" Taesu thought about the question. He thought about the night he found Bile in the wreckage. He thought about the fear in her eyes that slowly became trust. He thought about Valera, this terrifying commander who had become something like a friend. "Because some things are worth more than being comfortable," he said. "Because I made a choice that night in the ruins. I chose to see a child instead of an enemy. I cannot go back to seeing only enemies now. None of us can." Valera was standing nearby. She heard his answer through the translator. Her 4 eyes met his too. She did not smile. Valorians rarely smiled. But she nodded once, slowly. It was enough. The bond between them was real. Not just because of ancient codes or honor debts. It was real because they had chosen to make it real. And that made all the difference. 3 years passed. 3 years of talking, arguing, fighting for peace when others wanted war. 3 years of slow, painful progress. And finally, on a cold morning in January, it happened. The Treaty of Kepler was signed in a great hall on a planet that had once been a battlefield. Human and Valorian leaders stood together, something nobody had imagined possible. Cameras from both civilizations recorded every moment. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched. The war was over. Taesu stood in the back of the hall, trying not to be noticed. He had never wanted fame or attention. He was just a medic who had made a choice. But people kept finding him, thanking him, calling him the father of peace. He did not feel like the father of anything. He felt tired. Val single quotes. I found him hiding near the exit. "You should be in front," she said. "You made this possible." "We made it possible," Taesu corrected. "You and I and thousands of others who believed peace was worth fighting for." Valera made a small sound that might have been agreement. Over 3 years, Taesu had learned to read her expressions, even though Valorian faces did not move the same way human faces did. Right now, she was proud, but also sad. The war had defined her whole life. Without it, she was not sure who she was anymore. "What will you do now?" she asked. Taesu had thought about this question many times. He could go home to Earth. He could see his mother again, finally give her the peace she had prayed for. He could find a quiet job at a hospital, save lives without the noise of battle around him. But he knew he would not do any of those things. "They've asked me to lead the new interspecies medical course," he said. "Training medics from both our peoples to work together, to save lives no matter which side they come from." Valera nodded slowly. "That is fitting. What about you?" "The Valorian government has asked me to become ambassador to Earth." She paused. I said yes. Taesu felt something warm spread through his chest. "So we will still work together. It seems the Velkarath Eternal will continue. The debt remains unpaid." "Good," Taesu said quietly. "I am glad." A small body crashed into both of them. Bile, now 7 cycles old, had escaped from her caretakers and found them. She was taller now, her silver blue skin bright and healthy. The patches over her damaged eyes were gone, replaced by small mechanical lenses that let her see almost normally. "Why are you hiding?" she demanded. "Everyone is looking for you." There's going to be a party. We are not hiding, Valeria said with dignity. We are having a private conversation. That is just hiding with words. Bile grabbed both their hands. Come on, you have to see the fireworks. They made special ones that humans and Valorians can both see properly. She dragged them toward the main hall, talking constantly about the celebration plans. Tae-Soo and Valeria exchanged a look over her head. They had both faced death, led armies, negotiated with governments. Neither of them could say no to this 7-year-old girl. The party lasted all night. Humans and Valorians danced together, awkwardly at first, then with more confidence. Music from both cultures played in turn. Food from 100 different worlds was served. For one night, the galaxy celebrated. Tae-Soo eventually escaped to a quiet balcony overlooking the ceremony grounds. The fireworks were indeed beautiful, bursting in colors that seemed impossible. Deep purple, bright gold, silver that shimmered like Valorian skin. Valeria joined him. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights paint the sky. 20 years from now, Tae-Soo said suddenly, what do you think the galaxy will look like? Valeria considered the question carefully. I think there will be children who do not remember the war. They will grow up thinking peace is normal. They will not understand why we ever fought. Is that bad? No, that is the goal. We fight so that others do not have to. We'll fight so that others do not have to. We remember so that others can forget. Tae-Soo nodded. He thought about Bile growing up in this new world they had built. She would have opportunities he never had. She could be anything she wanted to be, without war limiting her choices. The debt, Valeria said softly. You know it will never truly be repaid. Tae-Soo smiled. I know. The Volkarth Eternal means I am bound to you for the rest of my life. Even after this peace, even after everything, I am still yours. And I am still yours, Tae-Soo said. That is how partnership works. Valeria turned to look at him directly. Her 4 eyes reflected the fireworks like small galaxies. Humans are strange, she said. So are Valorians. Yes, perhaps that is why we needed each other. To remind ourselves that strange is not the same as wrong. She reached out and took his hand. It was a human gesture, one she had learned from him. Her fingers were longer than his, her skin cooler, but the meaning was the same. Thank you, she said, for saving my daughter, for giving me back my future, for being stubborn enough to refuse a simple payment when you could have had everything. Tae-Soo squeezed her hand gently. Thank you for being brave enough to follow an ancient code, even when everyone said you were crazy. For giving the galaxy a chance at peace. They stood together watching the celebration below. Somewhere in the crowd, Bile was laughing, dancing with children from both species. The sound of her joy floated up to the balcony like music thought in the years that followed. Historians would write about this night. They would analyze the treaty, study the politics, debate who deserved credit. They would make it complicated and difficult, as historians always did. But Tae-Soo knew the truth was simple. Peace did not come from treaties or codes. It came from moments like the one in the ruins, when he chose to see a child instead of an enemy. It came from Valeria choosing honor over hatred. It came from a little girl who loved both her worlds and refused to choose between them. The debt would never be fully paid. And that was exactly right, because some bonds are not meant to end. They are meant to grow, to change both people forever, to become something stronger than either could be alone. The war was over, but the story of Park, Tae-Soo and Valeria was just beginning. And across the galaxy, in homes and ships and stations, beings from 100 different worlds looked up at the same stars and dared to hope. That was enough. That was everything.